If you had invested just $500 in XRP back in 2014, well, today you would have over $300,000. Now, I thought that maybe I had missed the boat forever until I found out why some people think that it could happen all over again. So I've spent the past week on a kind of crypto treasure hunt, chasing down a rumor that XRP, yes, that's Ripple's XRP, might be gearing up for another explosion. And not just a little pump. Now I'm talking about the kind of growth that could leave even Bitcoin in the dust. Skeptical? Well, so was I. But stick around, because I uncover 6 real developments that could even a skeptic like me couldn't really ignore. Now, this is from imminent ETF decisions to billion-dollar acquisitions, all painting a picture that XRP's biggest days might actually be ahead of it. And this isn't just your usual hype, it's a personal journey. By the end of the video, you're going to know why some analysts are whispering about a 633x scenario again. And I'm going to share how I'm positioning myself so that I'm not just watching from the sidelines if the rocket takes off. Here's a spoiler. It involves something called Unity and a strategy for surviving exchange outages. Let's get into it. So let me take you back to where this all started. Now I'm scrolling through crypto Twitter the other night, and I see a post from an analyst named 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗍𝗰𝗱. Now he's talking about how XRP has actually outperformed Bitcoin over the past decade. And I was like, really? What on earth are you talking about? Well, that was my reaction anyway, because in my mind, Bitcoin's the giant, right? But he laid out the numbers, and of course my jaw, well, figuratively, my mind was blown, shall we say. Now, according to him, if you had put $500 into XRP in mid-2014 and just held on, well, you would be sitting on roughly $316,000 today. Meanwhile, that same $500 in Bitcoin would be worth about $93,000. Now, in percentage terms, we are looking at 63,233%, versus 18,501%. That's XRP growing about 3 times more than BTC over that period. Crazy, right? Well, I had to triple check the math to believe it. Now, it's kind of like finding out that the side character in a movie was actually the hero all along. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗍𝗋 wasn't just sharing a fun fact. He was actually making a rather bold prediction, because he believes that XRP could do something like that in the next kind of bullish phase. Basically, the XRP might outrun Bitcoin from here onwards, right? Now, just like it did back in 2014. Now, obviously, that sounds like a bit of a tall order, doesn't it? Right? And I'm sitting here thinking, all right, what on earth are you smoking? And can I have some? But then, of course, he starts listing reasons. 6 reasons to be exact, right? Now, these aren't pie-in-the-sky, wishful thinking reasons either. They're actual developments happening right now in the crypto world. So naturally, researcher mode was switched on, and I started digging in to see if this bold claim actually holds any water. Reason number 1. XRP spot ETFs are on the horizon. Hey, by the time you're watching this, maybe even 1 or 2 have gone out. Now, unless, of course, you've been under a rock, you know that 2025 has been the year of the crypto ETF craze, right? Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs, everyone is filing for them. And now XRP is also in the mix. Now, as of today, 7 major firms have filed with the SEC for XRP spot ETFs. Now, we're talking some pretty big names. Grayscale, WisdomTree, Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, and a few others. They all want a piece of the action. Now, even better, the decisions for all those filings are expected any day, right? Between November 13th and 20th. Now, this video, I think, is actually going out on like the 21st. So you never know. Some of these XRP ETFs probably are already out. Now, that's literally around the corner for me and, well, just a little bit like last week to you guys. Now, if even one of those ETFs gets approved, it could open the floodgates of a wave of institutional money into XRP. Right? Just imagine retirement funds, Wall Street trading desks, all being able to buy XRP as easily as stocks. The last time that we saw something similar was with Bitcoin's ETF buzz, and we all remember what happened there for Bitcoin. Now, The fact that XRP is on the deck for the same treatment is pretty huge. It's kind of like knowing a secret that the rest of the world just hasn't cottoned on to yet. Or maybe they're about to. Reason 2. Ripple is making some pretty powerful moves. In 2025 alone, Ripple, the company that's behind XRP, went on a shopping spree, spending over $2 billion on acquisitions. Now, they bought a firm called Hidden Road, a prime brokerage company, for about $1.25 billion. They've actually rebranded that one to Ripple Prime. And a little later, they actually scooped up a treasury management company called Treasury for another cool $1 billion. So, why do we care? Well, it's because Ripple is basically fortifying the ecosystem around XRP. A prime brokerage, a treasury management firm, well, these sound like kind of boring finance words, right? But translate that and you get Ripple is gearing up to offer services that big institutions need if they are going to use XRP. It's like Ripple is assembling the Avengers of fintech to make XRP more accessible and useful. So when a company throws down that kind of money, you have to wonder what their grand plan is. Now, to me, it says they're confident and doubling down on the future of XRP's utility. Reason 3. Ripple is aiming to become a bank, sort of. Now, this one kind of floored me a while back because Ripple did apply for a US banking license, specifically a National Trust Bank Charter. Now, they did this back in July of 2025. The decision was supposed to come by October, but if you recall, the US government had a little shutdown drama, didn't they? Well, which kind of pushed back a whole bunch of deadlines, including Ripple's application here. So, we're waiting on the regulators to get back to work, which they may have done already by the time you're watching this, and they may have even given an answer as to whether or not this is approved or denied. Now, if Ripple actually succeeds here and gets a banking charter, that's pretty massive news. It would mean that Ripple could offer custodial services or integrate with banks in a way that crypto companies almost never do. Essentially, Ripple, the company behind a crypto asset, is trying to become a part of the traditional banking infrastructure. Talk about bridging old finance with new finance. It also shows how serious Ripple is about sticking around for the long haul. They're not just playing in the sandbox, they're trying to own the sandbox. Reason number 4. Companies are holding XRP as a reserve asset. Now, this one was more under the radar, but it did make me nod in appreciation here. Now, a few publicly traded companies have started adding XRP to their balance sheets as part of their treasury reserves. Now, think about that. Once upon a time, companies would only hold cash, maybe some gold. Then, some started adding Bitcoin to their treasury. I mean, who remembers MicroStrategy with BTC, right? Well, now they're seeing this the likes of Trident Digital, Webus International, Vivo Power, World Logistics, companies that you might not have heard of, but they are real businesses, announcing that they hold XRP or plan to. Now, this is not a mass wave just yet, but it is a handful. But that just shows how trends start. Today is a few forward-thinking companies. Tomorrow, maybe Apple or Tesla. Okay, that might be wishful thinking. Or maybe is it, right? The key is that XRP is graduating from cryptocurrency that tech geeks and traders use to an asset that corporate CFOs consider worthy of holding. And you know what? That's a big credibility leap. Reason number 5. XRP's tech is creeping into mainstream finance. Honestly, this one kind of gave me a few chills, the good kind. Now, on November 5th, Mastercard, yes, the credit card giant, along with a bank called WebBank and the Gemini crypto exchange, they launched a pilot program. The pilot uses a stablecoin called RLUSD, which happens to be Ripple's USD-linked stablecoin, to settle credit card transactions. And they're doing it on the XRP Ledger. So, let me paint that quite clearly. You swipe your Gemini Mastercard, and instead of the payments sluggingly kind of moving through layers of traditional banking systems, it actually settles via XRP's Ledger's rails using the Ripple stablecoin. Now that is TradFi, traditional finance world, quietly plugging into the crypto tech to improve something every day, right? at least something as everyday as credit card payments. Now, it's not some future promise here. It is happening in a pilot with real companies and real users. Now, if that doesn't scream real-world utility, then I really don't know what does. A few years ago, seeing Mastercard and XRP in the same sentence would have sounded like fan fiction from a Ripple fanboy, but now it is reality. Reason number 6, the tokenization megatrend and XRP role in that. Now, you've probably heard the buzzword tokenization recently, right? Well, the idea is to take real-world assets like stocks, real estate, art, you name it, and represent ownership of those on the blockchain. Well, the Boston Consulting Group, fancy global consulting firm, estimates that tokenized assets could reach a $16 trillion market valuation by 2030. And yes, that was trillion with a T, and firms like Bitwise, a big crypto asset manager, are saying that the XRP Ledger is poised to capture a huge chunk of that market. Now, in plain English, if even a slice of stocks and bonds or real estate deeds moves to blockchains, and if XRP's network is one of the go-to places for that, it could drive a whole ton of value and activity into XRP. It's kind of like being an early investor in the internet infrastructure, right before everyone starts building websites. Now, the XRP Ledger is fast. It's been reliable for many years, and it's been, well, at least it's well suited, I should say, for things just like this. So, this isn't just about one coin mooning, it's actually about the possible structural shift in how assets are exchanged, where XRP could play a rather key role. So, by the time that I had gone through these 6 reasons, I felt a mix of excitement and disbelief. On one hand, each factor in its own is pretty compelling, right? But together they form an institutional-grade setup, as 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗋 put it, for XRP to potentially make a rather big move. Now, it's kind of like all the stars are aligning here. Regulatory green lights, corporate and Wall Street interest, technical integrations into mainstream systems, and a macro trend of tokenization that plays to XRP's strengths. Now, the analyst called it an upcoming utility season, a phrase where crypto with real-world use cases, not just boring, pointless rug pull memes and speculation, but actually utility, real-world use case drive the next kind of growth cycle. And honestly, you know what? I'm starting to think that he might be onto something. I mean, this isn't 2017's ICO mania or 2021's Dogecoin craze, right? And it's not the 2024 meme coin rug pull season anymore. This feels different. It feels, dare I say it, more grown up. Mind you, I am an optimist, but also a bit of a realist. And I'm not here to tell you that XRP will definitely shoot to the moon and make us all filthy rich overnight. But what I am saying is that the groundwork is being laid for something rather significant. Now, that analyst, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗋, suggested that people shouldn't see XRP's past 633x surge as just a missed bus. No, he basically said that this could be your second chance to build a long-term wealth. Now, that phrase, second chance, really stuck with me, because how often do you really get second chances in life, right? A lot of us, myself included, have felt that sting of, I knew about this crypto and I didn't buy enough, and now look at it. Now, hearing that, this kind of might be another shot just at it. Well, you know what? It perked me right up. Now, before we all start seeing dollar signs in our dreams and start to kind of find out where the local Lamborghini dealership is, let me drop in a bit of a reality check in plain English, because this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we got that out of the way, because trust me, even with all of this excitement, nothing is guaranteed in crypto, right? In fact, things can go wrong fast. Exchanges get hacked or go down, or they commingle their funds and go bankrupt like FTX. Regulators could drop the hammer, or sometimes the hype just doesn't pan out. Now, I remember when XRP was under that huge SEC lawsuit for a few years. It was like a dark shadow. Exchanges were delisting XRP. Everyone was uncertain if XRP would even survive in the US market. Well, those were not fun days for us XRP holders. But you fast forward, the saga has cleared up now. XRP got that much needed clarity in the United States. And ironically, as soon as that kind of pressure lifted, all of the developments that we kind of talked about started happening, right? It's almost as if the moment that the handcuffs come off, XRP was ready to run that exact marathon. Even so, I stay prepared for all of the curveballs here. Right? Let me give you a quick personal tip. One risk not many people actually talk about are the exchanges and the outages or the issues that they have during critical moments. Now, I've been in crypto long enough to see trading platforms freeze up when volatility spikes. Heck, some exchanges have randomly suspended withdrawals because they're in trouble financially. Sometimes some of these exchanges, they commingle funds with their, offshore entities and, of course, go bankrupt, taking everybody's crypto with them. Now, that is why I have a very clear rule. Never rely on just one exchange. Now, I've basically made myself a strategy to sign up KYC, yes, show my passport 1,000,000 times over, and test as many exchanges as I reasonably can. Because you never know when you're going to need a plan B or a plan C, right? So if exchange A has a problem, I can jump over to exchange B or exchange C and just keep on going. Of course, cold storage comes in clutch. Always make sure you've got yourself a Ledger device. You'll find a link for that down in the description. Anyway, for example, I do have accounts on some pretty big names, along with some newer ones like Blowfin and BitGet, for example. Now, here's full transparency. In the description down below, you're going to find a link to my website where I list all of the exchanges that I do personally use. And the links to those exchanges on my website, those are affiliate links, which basically means that if you use them to sign up and trade, I do actually earn a small commission from the exchange, and it does not cost you anything extra, but it really does support what we do here on the channel. So I would like to take this moment right now to say thank you to anyone who does go over to the website to use those links. I really do appreciate it. But of course, you've got to use whatever platform that you trust. I've just listed the ones that I personally use and trust myself. Now, the point is that I don't want to be stuck on just one exchange when it goes dark or at the worst possible time, right? Crypto is wild enough. There's no need to play on hard mode by putting all of your eggs into one basket, right? Now, coming back to the big picture here, all of these developments around XRP basically underscore one theme: utility. Right? We're moving, hopefully, into an era where crypto projects need to actually do something rather than the trust me bro BS that you see in the space, and do something useful, something valuable, right? Not just a cute dog logo or some kind of promise of high yields that never actually materialize, right? And that gets me thinking beyond just XRP, because yes, I do hold XRP and I'm excited about its prospects, but I'm also looking at other ways to ride this utility wave. Now, I want to actually use and engage with the networks that might define the next chapter of crypto. Now, one of those ways is something that I've talked about in many previous videos, but it's worth a quick mention and a quick update right here. We're going to be talking Unity nodes. Now, in a nutshell, Unity is a platform that lets you earn crypto by contributing to a decentralized telecoms network with everyday devices. Think of this like you have some smartphones or some smart tablets kind of just lying around. Well, Unity will let you put those devices to work, doing whatever the network tasks are needed. Things like verifying the telecom's call strengths, or whether there's an outage and things like that. It takes all of that real world data for the telecom sector and puts it onto the world mobile chain. And in return for doing that work, you get rewarded in crypto. So it's kind of like mining, but without the crazy electricity costs and any specialized hardware. You're essentially just doing these kind of verification calls with your mobile phone using the hardware that you already have and earning crypto for it. Now, I was really intrigued by this concept, so I did actually buy a Unity node NFT, which essentially is a license to participate as a node operator. Now, that came with 200 operator licenses, meaning that I can connect up to 200 different devices, phones, tablets, to their network. Now, I didn't go ahead and plug in 200 phones on day one. That would be completely overkill. And, it's not something that I would advocate for. No, I'm starting small. I've hooked up 10 phones to run as a test. The idea is to see how much they earn, how stable is the system, and basically, is this thing even worth scaling up? So, if it shows promise, yeah, I will gradually ramp up to the number of devices. Now, what's really cool about Unity is that I can choose to be paid out in different cryptocurrencies. Now, I've set to be paid out in things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, and of course, XRP. Why those? Well, those are some of my long-term holds, and it feels like I'm actually passively stacking more of them without directly buying them myself. It's almost like staking or yield farming, but with this unique twist in the real world utility, right? Using phones to support the telecoms network. Now, this is a little fun experiment, honestly, but if it fits the whole kind of making crypto work for you kind of thing, and if it works out as advertised, could be pretty profitable. Now, huge disclaimer, yes, another one, because I do care about each and every one of you guys, even if you are the haters in the comments. But just because I'm trying this, it does not mean that it's risk-free or that it's that you should just go throw money at it because it's a guaranteed thing. Because no, right? Unity is a relatively new concept, a deep in infrastructure play. And like anything in crypto, you should absolutely do your own research before jumping into anything. Now, to help with that, I have put some links in the description to Unity's light paper and their rewards calculator. So check those out if you are curious. The light paper will give you the technical rundowns of how it all works, and the calculator just lets you play with the numbers to estimate potential earnings based on how many devices or licenses that you use. Now, just one more thing on the Unity side. Now, I know that everyone is kind of ready, or at least not everyone is kind of ready to drop their money on the full masternode and have the hassle of dealing with 200 devices, right? It's a big ask. That is why I actually bought a second and third node myself with the idea to lease the licenses out to the community members. Basically, if you're interested in trying Unity with a few devices, you could just lease the license from me rather than buying a whole 200 license package for yourself. Now, this is a way to kind of dip your toes in without committing to a whole ton of 200 devices, right? Buying a load of phones or hardware or whatever it is, right? Instead, have more information on how you can do this by just leasing licenses. So do check out the Discord linked in the description down below, because we discuss all of this stuff down there, how to lease the licenses, all that wonderful stuff down in the Discord server. So if it does pique your interest, hop into the Discord. It's completely free. It's a great place to learn, and you're going to find way more details down there and of course on the website. So we've got this little community. It's brewing around these Unity experiments, and it's been awesome seeing people come together, share the results, and learn from each other too. Phew, that was a bit of a tangent, I know, but I think it is a valuable one because it illustrates a broader point here. The crypto space is evolving, and so are the ways that we can engage with it. Now, it's not just buy a token and pray for a 10x anymore. It's actually becoming buy a token that actually has a reason to exist, or participate, in a network and get rewarded for it. Utility, utility, utility. Now, I do sound like a broken record, but I do truly believe that that is where the next big wave is heading. Okay, bringing it all back to XRP and our original story here, after doing all of this homework, I feel a genuine optimism about XRP's future that I haven't felt in a rather long time. And trust me here, I'm naturally cautious kind of guy. So like when I hear some moon boy on the internet yelling $1,000 XRP, I usually just roll my eyes. But now I understand that an otherwise level-headed analyst could even entertain a number like that in the longer run. Just for fun, let's talk about that number, right? Because if XRP were to repeat a 63,233% rise from its current price of around $2 as we speak, then we literally would be looking at XRP around $1,400 plus per coin. That sounds nuts, and I'm not saying that it's actually going to go to that level. In fact, I would be rather shocked if it did. Realistically, the market cap, would be a bit of an issue, mainly because we would have to see a significant amount of inflows, not trillions of dollars nor hundreds of billions, but we would need to see tens of billions of dollars flowing in and a rather limited amount of sell pressure, which, I think would be pretty difficult. So the sell pressure would tame the excitement quite a bit. Even an analyst himself, or the analyst, acknowledged that such a huge surge might not be fully possible due to the market cap constraints, as in, lots of sell pressure comes in. It's really about the sell pressure, the supply, the demand mechanics than it is about market cap. Market cap doesn't really matter. That's just a byproduct of the supply and the demand. So realistically speaking, to get to these lofty targets, it can't happen instantaneously. You have to see a reason to see that supply drop whilst the demand increases dramatically. Possible, yes. Probable, well, we'll put a pin in that one. But you know what? We could go to $10, maybe $50 or $100 one day if the stars align and utility demand explodes, right? Now, I'm not ruling out, over a long enough time period that some of that is possible, right? Here is a fun comparison. Bitcoin did 185x from today, right? One Bitcoin or one BTC would be something like $18 million, right? If it did that. Also crazy and unlikely anytime soon. But the exact numbers aren't really even the point here, right? The point is the magnitude of what could be on the table if you have a winning horse and a transformative era. The takeaway for me is not XRP to the moon guaranteed, no, but more XRP has set itself up to be in the conversation for the next big run. It has the ingredients, clear use case, improving public perception, especially after winning against the SEC, infrastructure being built around it, and interest from big players. Could it still flop? Sure, anything absolutely could. But I would hate to be the guy who had all of this information and still completely ignored XRP's potential second act. I mean, think about it. How often do we really get a second chance at something that we thought we had missed? Crypto's given me a few or at least do-overs in the past, right? I've missed Bitcoin early, got in later, ignored Ethereum at first, wised up eventually, and I don't want to be that guy that's rewatching this video of mine 2 years from now, shaking my head saying, why didn't I even listen to myself, right? So I'm paying attention here. I'm not going all in like a madman, right? Remember, balance and risk management, right? But I have increased my XRP position to a level that I'm comfortable with, and I'm staying engaged with all of the developments. And whether it's XRP or experimenting with Unity nodes or just hanging out in our Discord discussing the next big thing, I'm making sure that I'm involved. That's going to be half the battle, being in the game and not on the sidelines. Now, if this truly is down to a utility-driven crypto run, then I want to experience it from the front row, not hear about it after the fact. So, to wrap all of this up, I started this journey feeling like I had missed one of the greatest crypto opportunities of my life, but now, I honestly feel like we're standing at the start of something equally exciting. Maybe it won't be as dramatic as 633x again. Hey, I'll take a humble 10x or 20x any day, but it's the trajectory and the momentum that really counts. XRP's story, it is still being written, and it's looking like a real page-turner. And I, for one, am not going to close the book just when it is getting good. So, thanks for joining me on this deep dive and personal little adventure of mine. If you have found value here, maybe learned something new, or at least got a fresh perspective, hit that like button and subscribe button and join our community. Right, we're just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. I'll catch you in the next one.